Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to this week's episode of Who Cares? Yeah, it's been a really good week. Took a break on recording and we're getting back into it. Got a lot of episodes coming up this week. And I'm really excited about today's guest. I'm always excited about my guests. Why wouldn't I be excited about them? I get to pick the people that I want to talk to. He's the guitar player and the lead singer of the band Black Pistol Fire, which, if you do not know, this band, they are one of the best bands that has come out of Austin, Texas. Phonetic, dynamic, incredibly exciting live. They played ACL a number of times, Lollapalooza, Riot Fest, Bonnaroo, Shaky Knees. They have topped the charts in Canada, just have a really rabid fan base. I've worked with them for years. I was their tour manager at one point, and then I managed them for about 3.5 years. And yeah, we decided to, kind of go our separate ways as far as the management thing is concerned a few years back, all for good reasons. We wanted them to move on to a bigger management company, and I wanted to pursue some different things, such as this podcast. But we're still really, really good friends. And Kevin and I, we spent a lot of time on the phone over the last few years talking about life, talking about mental health, talking about fitness. We have a really good relationship, and so I wanted to bring those conversations onto this podcast so we could find out a little bit more about Black Pistol Fire. We talk a little bit about their new album that's coming out, and we talk about ways that, once again, social media has influenced music and Black Pistol Fire's music. We talk about the struggles of being on the road and touring. We discuss mental health and what we do to combat that. And it's just a really good conversation. If you don't know Black Pistol Fire, I think you will be very entertained and get a lot out of this conversation, even if you do not know the band and do not know the music. And if you're a fan of Black Pistol Fire, Kevin doesn't do a whole lot of interviews, so you're gonna get to hear him talk a lot more than you have before, because I don't think he's done a podcast either. So anyways, I've said enough. Let's get right into it. Here is my episode with Kevin McKeown from Black Pistol Fire. Here we go. Kevin, welcome to Who Cares, man.
I'm very stoked to be here.
I'm super stoked that you're here. You don't do a lot of interviews like this, so I think it's going to be really cool for Black Pistol Fire fans, and it's really cool for me as a friend of yours to dive into this. And yeah, I'm really grateful that you took the time to come and chat with me.
Absolutely, only for you.
Only for me.
Only for Tim.
Yeah. How's your week going?
Week's going good, man. It's a busy time, but a not busy time, if that makes sense. It's a lot of stuff. We're gearing up to release a new album, and there's a lot of rehearsing to do. But then there's also a lot of legwork involved, getting ready for the rollout for the album. So
yeah, you just announced a tour yesterday.
Yeah, just announced a tour, and
first tour in a while.
We've been doing like little bits and bobs over the last couple of years where, a little small run here, there. But the tour has been announced and an album. So I think we're firing the engine back up, baby.
It's super exciting. I've been stoked seeing the engine of social media churning and seeing posts, and, I can see your fans getting really excited, which is fun. And I've heard some of the new music already, and I know that there's some really good stuff coming. Yeah. So I'm really excited. How's it feel for you, with the new album?
It feels really exciting to get this all this music out to the world. I mean, it's been a couple years of piecing together what the album eventually has become. So, and now we are working with a team, and I feel very, very proud of this album. It's probably some of the most vulnerable, in lyrics, and taking a bit of chances sonically. So I don't know. I'm stoked. I'm stoked to get out into the world and play and for people to hear this stuff. So
Yeah, I think, I know recently, the last couple of years, the band has been a little quiet, and I'm sure for fans, they're like, what the hell is going on? Like, where is this band at?
Yeah.
And I think what they don't know that you might want to shed light on is like, you've been working really hard for a long time on these songs.
Yeah.
And trying to piece together what will be the band's next full album.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of work, and especially for you and your process, it takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
What's that process been like?
Like you said, it's been whenever things seem quiet, which I've been thinking about that a lot lately, and I've been talking to a few friends and folks in the music business about the idea of like constantly keeping up with a pace of the rest of the world or everybody else, and sometimes it's easy to look around and go, oh man, everybody's moving so fast, the world's moving so fast, and they're blowing past you, and you can feel like you're spinning your wheels because maybe you're not moving at that pace. But what I learned over the last little while was you gotta just go at the pace of your own rhythm, and that's the only important thing you have to kind of keep in mind. So sometimes people are like, well, where y'all been? Things are quiet, and it's it's just about taking time, because I think when you rush creativity or you put, I think pressure and deadlines are always a good thing with anything creative, but I think when there's that feeling of like being almost pushed to the ledge to do this, that, or the other thing, I think that's never a good place to feel fully creative, like to do your best work. And
there's a definitely a pressure within the music industry that you have to be relevant and putting something out at all times, or you're going to get left behind, you're going to get forgotten. And that the volume on that has just turned up louder and louder and louder over the last few years, where it used to be a lot more common. Like a band would write an album, release an album, tour that album for 2 years, and then they would kind of go away for a little while so that they could repeat the cycle, and you wouldn't hear anything for a long time. Maybe they'd play the occasional show or whatnot.
Yeah.
And then boom, all of a sudden they're like, here's a brand new record. We've been in the lab cooking it up.
Yeah.
And now it's like, no, you need to be releasing singles constantly, and you need to be playing shows constantly. And like, you can't ever take your foot off the gas, which is not a healthy place for an artist.
No, I don't think so. And I think that for some artists and in some bands, it works really well to be under that kind of pressure cooker, always like, having to produce something. But I don't know. I think that there's a lot of things that I've over the last couple of years starting to learn and understand, and I think it's really important to not, for young artists, for any artist, older artists, anybody creating anything, to not allow the metrics and numbers to determine whether or not something's good or something has value or it can stand on its own. Any of that stuff, and that's kind of like the world we live in. We're in this world where we look at how many likes or how many followers you have, how many listens, how many streams, and that I don't know. I just think back to like older artists and a lot of bands like, Hall & Oates in their 40s. They didn't make it, start really getting on to, becoming super popular until they were in their 40s. Paul Simon, some of his best work didn't come until he was in his like late 40s. And everybody has flops and everybody has this and that. And I think that when you, as an artist, if you can tune out all the, noise of people demanding this, demanding that, more of this, more of that, and it's got to hit this, it's got to stream this. If you can tune that out, then I think that's when you make your best work. Yeah. So that's kind of where we're back to, in response to your question, Taylor, was like, yeah, that's kind of where I was trying to live over the last couple of years. And it was a lot of work. It was a lot of songs. I mean, a lot of writing, a lot of songs that did not, make this album that I still think are really good. They just didn't make the album, and that's part of the process. But I think you have to weigh that up against what kind of world you want to live in and what kind of work you want to make. I know to a detriment for me as an artist, I always want things to be super particular, exactly the way I want them, and they have to be as good as they possibly can be, whether that mean 3 or 4 revisions on the mix, go back, redo vocals, all that stuff. And sometimes that's not really conducive to, say, somebody, if you're working with a team, or they're like, we need to go bang, 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 we need to be releasing stuff every.
Yeah, they're deadline driven, and they're engagement driven, and yeah, I mean, some artists like yourself are very, you have a vision, and you hear it in your head, you see it in your head, you know what it's supposed to be like, and then when you get something that is off from that, you can't, in good conscience, move forward.
Yes,
you're stuck until that thing comes out exactly the way that you imagined it.
Yeah. Like I said, I think we're in a place right now where there's so much demand for content and art that you almost have to adopt a little bit of both sides, where it's like, it doesn't need to be perfect.
Yeah.
Because you just need to kind of be able to stay on people's radar, so to speak. And I'm still wrapping my head around that, of like, okay, I understand that. But I'm also coming from this place where I just want to create music and feel like I'm, growing as an artist, and I want to go out and perform that stuff. Those are the things that, are, at my core, the most important things, like making something that I'm proud of, and hopefully something that resonates and connects with other people. That's like my only real thing that I invest everything in. Yeah. But now there's also an element of that we as artists are being asked to be, quote unquote, salesmen as well. Like, you got to sell yourself, not just the music. And there's an argument to be said. It's like, your social presence, or how you present yourself on socials, and how you sell yourself in that way, can be more valuable or more important, to, quote unquote, a brand, I don't know, than the actual content, like music or whatever. So it's a strange thing, but I'm still trying to navigate it, of what feels comfortable on that front. So
I think that's a question that so many artists are struggling with right now. It's just like, how much of myself do I share? What is authentic, and what is, I'm only doing this to feed the machine?
That's a hard thing for an artist, because it's like, unless you get a lot of help, figuring out how to do that, because I think a lot of artists, put so much of their energy, soul, and blood, sweat, and tears into their art, and now they're asking to be able to, like, you got to put just as much into, like, this other format of selling yourself, that, you'd be surprised at how many musicians, artists are actually not much of an extrovert as you might think.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Listeners
might be surprised.
Yeah,
I know a lot.
People
of
think, like, because you get on
yeah.
stage in front of thousands of people or whatever and play a show, that you should be comfortable getting in front of a camera and doing
like,
this.
What's up,
talking,
everybody? How we doing?
It's not always the case, and it's that's why music is an outlet for some of those people, is because they can't express themselves in ways, like, being on camera. And so
so it's created this very unnatural demand on artists to be this, like, some of it reminds me of, like, being a VJ on MTV. Just like, you're a personality and you're a musician.
Yes.
Coming at you live from Cincinnati. Doors are at 7. And it's just like, that's not realistic. It's not intuitive for a lot of artists. Some artists are,
Yeah.
you know, and some people have that naturally in them and are drawn to do that.
Yeah, you're right. But you know, it reminds me of a friend of mine that he came on tour with us, but he was in a rock band called Wells, and
Yeah, he's blowing up right now.
and now his name goes by Jesse Wells, and you know he's doing fantastic. He's doing amazing. I'm really, really, really stoked and happy for that dude. But you know, coming out of the pandemic, you know, we would keep in touch, and we would you know, share music ideas and stuff. And he stayed at my house a few times, and we went in the studio and we recorded and worked on songs together. And but I do remember like a shift, you know, kind of happened where he had started sending me videos of him just playing acoustic guitar in the woods, and I was like, oh, these are rad. And, you know, we would still keep in touch. And then a mutual friend of ours that I work with in the studio, Nick, who's worked on many Black Pacifier records, and he's such a good friend, close friend.
Big swinging Nick.
Big swinging Nick. He had told me, have you checked out Jesse's socials or his Instagram? And I was like, no. I checked it out, and, you know, he was at like 1 million followers, you know, in the course of like 6 months. And it was just him being true and authentic to himself, playing these songs that he had written about what was going on in the world right now, politically or whatever. But the point is that he just found something that he felt was in his wheelhouse, and that he enjoyed, and he
it was supernatural to him, and that is why it's reacting, because it's like when you see those videos, it's not performative. It's not like, how can I get, this is going to get a bunch of likes. It just felt like he was very naturally just doing what he does, and he's really good at it. The songs that he writes are just incredible.
I mean, we knew that when we first toured with those guys.
Yeah, I remember when you had him out.
Yeah, and then even like getting to work in the studio without, like, that guy is so talented. He's insanely talented. But the point is that he whatever he's doing that feels good to him, it's just about doing that. And, you know, and the algorithm picks up on that. When you just keep on doing what you do, and you do it really well, bang, 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 it will eventually get to the eyes and ears of people. But just to be clear, Taylor, I'm not, anti, social media or anything. I just, I'm still trying to figure it out, navigate it, like what feels good and how I'm supposed to be on that for, as an artist,
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's good to say that. It's funny because social media has been a topic on every episode of this podcast so far.
How can it not?
It is,
yeah.
it's just such a big part of our lives.
Yeah.
And I think everybody is trying to figure out what their relationship is with it, good and bad.
Yeah.
Like how it benefits them and how it's not benefiting them, and how much is too much screen time, and how much, should I be comparing my life to the life of others, and
yeah, right.
And my likes to their likes, and all of that stuff. I think it's going to continue to be an ongoing dialogue that we're having for a really long time, because it runs through every fabric of our existence right now,
It does.
It is this glue that's holding us all together, and it can be extremely positive.
When it's one of those things that if you know how to use it, and it can be a beautiful thing, because then you get exposed to things and get inspired by other art and this and that, and I think it's a great way to really showcase your art. My only thing that I want to say is that sometimes social media can present this idea, like I was saying earlier, that metrics and numbers are what determines if something's successful or good, and that is just, I don't believe that.
Yeah.
No,
there was a really interesting post that I saw a while ago from a well-known artist, and they were talking about how Spotify should remove the players, the listens, and the monthly listeners. They're like, why are we showcasing this information to everybody? That's
right.
That should be private information. Like,
that's interesting.
To look at a band and they only have 1,000 monthly listeners, I probably won't listen to their music.
That is
and
odd,
it's just
right?
it's just like, why do we even have that? Like, it should not be a metric that is publicly available, because it just diminishes the art or
Right.
creates this preconceived bias of like, oh, this band isn't worth my time because no one listens to them. Or, oh, this band is, has 1 million monthly listeners. They must be great. I'm going to go ahead and listen. It just creates this, I don't know, this comparison tool.
But you're right. I've never thought about that. If those kinds of stats were not visible to people, I wonder.
I don't think they're visible on Apple.
They're not, right?
Yeah, I don't think you can see them.
Interesting. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure you can't. But yeah, I mean, it's like in the past, those numbers were private. How many albums you sold. Like what you could buy a magazine and go and look at where a song was charting on the record charts, but no one did. Like if you heard a song on the radio, you weren't like, how many people listen to this band? You were like, oh, this is a really good band.
Right.
I want to listen to more. Like, so yeah, I think it's stolen like the level playing field for a lot of artists, especially new artists that are trying to break in, because it's just like it delegitimizes you immediately if you don't have this giant follower count on Spotify. And yeah, I think I don't think that should be public information.
Yeah, honestly, I never thought about that, but you're right. It might, box people into just listen to the music and the art and on that merit alone, you know. But I don't know. I think the key is to just, make stuff that you feel proud about and then put it out there and put it out on your own terms. Like make sure the art is the way you want to do it. But which brings me to a question, Taylor. I don't know, for listeners, how many people know that Taylor used to work with Black Pistol Fire?
That's correct.
In many ways, but not so much in the music industry anymore, though.
No, not at the moment. I kind of took a back seat, or not even a back seat. I kind of stepped off the bus for a while. I did used to manage you. I used to tour manage you. And for a while, I managed you guys for 3 years. I didn't tour manage you for very long because COVID hit.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, the music industry has been like a big part of my life for over 20 years, from being in a band to working at Red Rocks to tour managing, to working with you guys. Yeah, it's a really big thing. Sometimes I feel like a fish out of water, like not being in it, so
you
to
miss
speak.
it. Yeah.
I miss it. I miss aspects of it. Like at my core, it is what I know best.
Right.
But yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what my place is in it and where I should be focusing on it in the future.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, that was something I know I've asked you many times, but when so much of your life for such a long time is kind of rooted in, touring, and being on the road and traveling from this place and rarely being situated in one place for a long time, was COVID the time where that all kind of just forced you to stop and like look at things from a different angle, like to be still in a way,
I mean, it definitely forced me to stop and be still and look at it. When I was touring a lot, I knew that like at some point I had to get off this ride. Like if I really wanted the things that I was most called to, which is community and routine and relationships, romantic relationships, that's something that I've had a really hard time making work while I was on the road.
Oh, yeah.
As most people do. It takes a very special relationship and a special person that is the one that is at home and not on tour to be able to maintain that, and a ton of work, you know. And yeah, when COVID happened, I was like, oh my God, like, what am I going to do? When can we go back on the road? Like, I don't like this. I don't like just sitting here. It was very uncomfortable for me. And the longer that it went on, the more comfortable I got, and the more it just seemed impossible to like pack my Pelican and pack a suitcase and get on a plane again and be gone for 3 months, you know?
Yeah.
And it still does. Like when I think about going back on tour, and I've been offered some incredible gigs to tour manage since COVID happened. Like, you know, like massive acts, really bands that I'm like a big fan of, and good money. And every time I'm just like, oh my God, like sleeping very little, being on a bus, fly dates where you're sleeping not at all. And like, you know, as a tour manager, herding all of these cats and trying to get everybody from the airport to the transportation to the hotel to the venue to the sound check, and just like I was so stressed all the time, but I also loved it. It was like the best job that I ever had, and I do miss it dearly, but I still don't know if going back would be worth the cost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now that you've got a chance to slow down and see this other side of not, you know, you can. I think that's the key, is the balance. And then because when you're, you know, when you're constantly in that cycle of touring all the time, and it's the same thing with bands and artists, not just like well, I think tour managers and crew and all that side of the industry, you know, the majority of the gig is going from this gig to that gig to that gig, and it's just constant, you know, going, you know. And then for artists, it's tour, get off the road, write, record, tour, and it's just this never ending, you know, revolving thing of that. But when you stop for a little bit, and you know, we don't want to get into all the awful side of what COVID was, but it did, you know, it did force a lot of people to stop and go, oh, you know, look at things in a different way, you know, stop all this go. And I do know a lot of people that, you know, decided to switch career paths because, you know, that time where everything stops kind of gave them a little clarity to go, I don't know if I really like what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But that's why I was curious about the music industry and what the role that you used to play in the music industry, and if there's still these times where it kind of, you know, where you miss it a little bit and want to get back into it. And
I miss it all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I really do, you know, and you know, I'm obviously friends with a lot of people that are on tour all the time, and I see them on Instagram, and I'm seeing their stories of, you know, being at load in and sound check and day off in Green Bay, and, you know, and I'm just like, man, I miss it, you know, like, I miss the camaraderie of tour so much, like,
right, yeah,
you know, living on a bus in particular with people, you know. I don't miss van tours, but like there's a thing that happens when you're all living on the bus, you're all waking up in your bunks, you know, the show's over every night and everybody's in the front lounge, and we're just like high on endorphins because we just crushed a 13-hour day and it was a great show, and like, you know, there's just nothing like it.
Yeah.
And doing jobs that I do now to make money, I mean, there's none of that, you know. There is no real sense of camaraderie of like, look what we did, look what we just pulled off. When we pulled in, we were like, it's impossible. How are we going to make this work? You know, like there's so many problems to solve and so many things to fix. And like the singer's got a cold and blah, blah, blah. And the executive from the label's here. And we got, you know, and it's like all these things have to go right and we got to figure it out. And then when you pull it off with a team of people that you care about, it's just like, oh my God, it's the best thing ever. It feels like you're not working, you know? Yeah.
Those moments are what those are the moments that keep you coming back. And I've tried to explain that to other people that you know, are not so familiar with touring and what it's like for a musician or for a tour manager or anybody that's on the road in that realm, is that it's not as luxurious as people think. You know, people think, oh, it's so great, you get to see travel and see so much of the country or see all these places. Sometimes you do, and those are the times you're like, this is amazing. But a lot of time you're just going from point A to point B to point B, and you don't really get to see a lot of things. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of preparation to load in, load out, warm ups. Like all the work that goes into that hour and a half where you're on stage
So much work
is a lot of work, and it's a lot of mental fatigue. It can wear you down on the road sometimes. But like what you're saying is that there are these moments, whether it's you're on stage and you're feeling this complete connection with the audience, and the level of energy that is being exchanged between you and the crowd is so infectious, and it's so addictive sometimes. That feeling, I've still have yet to find anything to match or replace that feeling.
Yeah.
And that is, I guess for artists, and crew or whatever, what keeps you coming back. And then if you're lucky enough to travel and tour with people that you get along with and really, really like,
Yeah.
then
It's so fun.
that's the golden ticket.
It's
You've
so
just
fun.
made it.
Yeah, and so when you get a crew where everybody is really good at their jobs and everybody likes working with each other, it is just like, it's poetry in motion.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
No, I agree. And, we were lucky enough to do, how many tours did we do where you were actually TM, and it was probably
Only one tour.
Oh, and that was a Canadian. It was a Canadian.
The Canadian tour, and it got canceled because of COVID.
Oh, that's
We
right.
got
That
kicked-
was the
we
tour.
got kicked out of the country, basically.
It was mid-tour. I think we were only in 3 or 4 shows.
4 shows in, yeah.
Yeah, but we were playing arenas,
yeah.
But I do remember that where we were all like, "Oh, the world seems to be shutting down," and we were all booking flights out the next day. And we got to the airport, and people were running like it was like something out of a movie to try to catch their flights. Like,
Yeah.
it was the end of times or something.
I remember running across the Denver airport trying to make our connection, because it was like, if we don't make that connection, we're probably not getting out of Denver.
Yeah.
Period. Because they were going to shut down all the flights pretty much the next day.
That's right. That's right. You're right.
And so we were like running for our lives. It was crazy.
Yeah. No. Oh, yeah. So we didn't even actually get to cross the finish line for an actual tour together. Well, either way, I do remember that the few shows that we did do together. It was like, I really enjoyed working with you, not only because we all got along really well, but it was like, it was very clear very early on that you were extremely good at what you do, and I don't think we had ever had that before.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is what it means to like have somebody do this, and this. And so and honestly, that's probably why, years later, we decided to work together in a different capacity with the band. So, but yeah, to your point, touring can be an amazing thing. And I don't doubt that you probably miss it. But I also know, because we talk, we talk not all the time, but often enough to know that you're in a really good place. And, being able to try and venture out and do different things is kind of the whole point of life, So I really admire that about you, taking chances like that.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, that's what life is about, is taking chances and trying new things. And like, touring isn't going anywhere. I miss it. I may go back to doing it. I had 2 offers in the last month to go back out and do it again, and I was like, maybe, I don't know. There might be a world where we tour, but it's not going to be soon.
No. I wasn't trying to. Hey, Tay, let's get you back in the ring again. No, I really respect your desire and your just willingness to go and try other things, because I think that's just a really important thing to do. And I love that it's all rooted in creativity. It's like things that fill you up, but it's also, you're getting to flex a creative muscle in some sorts.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten in some creative flow states just in working on this project that I hadn't been in years, and so that's been really fun.
Hell yeah.
And tells me that I'm on some sort of the right path.
One thing I've learned about myself, to this point where we're talking about right now is that I make so much music. I you know, for people that probably wouldn't know, is that I spend hours and hours every day trying to make something new every day. And sometimes that snowballs into, you know, a whole week of working on one song. Sometimes that's just, you know, working on this idea every day. And that's just something that I need to do every day as an artist. Like I need to if I don't get to create something every day, something feels a little off.
Yeah.
Like there's an imbalance, and I notice it during the day or after 2 days, and that's why touring sometimes can be a little bit tough on tour, because you're going out and you're playing these songs that you've rehearsed over and over again, and there are these little little pockets during the set where you get to step out and it becomes more of a free flow, improvised thing, and those are the moments that really just spark, you know, your love for that side of the live part of the show. But mostly you're kind of, all the creative work has usually been done before tour.
Yeah.
In
There's not a
preparation.
lot of room for being creative on the road and
Right.
writing music and creating. There's just no time for it. You know, like some artists that are in a much bigger position, you know, like that have tour buses or multiple tour buses. Like I've seen that where they have a little rig and like they have all day on their bus to wait for sound check and write and do whatever they want in the back lounge. But not every band has that luxury.
No.
You know?
No.
But even when they have it, I've worked with some that do. They don't use it very much, because even though they have it and there's time and there's a space, there's so much stuff to do. Well, you gotta get your sleep. They want to exercise. They want to see their friends that are in that town. They need to go do radio. They need to go.
Absolutely.
You know, so it's like
there really isn't a lot of time for that.
No.
And you know, you can try, but it's a constant. That's the definition of touring, is you're constantly going bang, bang, bang from here to here to here to here.
Yeah.
Sound check, blah, blah,
every
blah.
second is filled.
But the point I wanted to say about the creating process is like, I love creating every day, and creating so you just start to stack up all this stuff that you make every day, and after a while I start to think to myself like, oh, this is good. This is something I need to do to just get things out and create. But I feel way more fulfilled when I get to share that with somebody. Mm-hmm. But you know, the thing that I also realized was like, I can get just as fulfilled and excited by working on something for a whole week, whether it be an idea for a song, and then just sending, you know, a demo or a little voice thing, whatever, and sending that to somebody like yourself, or sending it to a few close friends. Yeah. And people will be like, oh, this is sick. This is rad. Yeah. And all of a sudden that's
all you need.
That gets me feeling at a high for weeks, months, depending on, you know, how good I feel about the idea. And what that meant to me is like, I don't need to have validation from, you know, magazines and outlets and, you know, reviews on the albums. Like, you know, that stuff is like, of course, I think most artists want a lot of people to hear their stuff and like it and resonate with it. But I think that's something that I keep coming back to, and I got to remember, if I make something and I can share it with people, and there's a lot of times I'll make something and I'll share it with a very close group of friends, and it doesn't always hit. It's like, oh yeah, it's all right. It's not so good. Yeah. You know, it's like, I don't know about that chorus is a little lame. That's great. And then that's feedback. And I was just like, okay, I totally get that. And then I can go back to the drawing board. But where I think for me, I'm trying to be a little bit more cautious and careful is like, you know, being, you know, worrying too much about like acceptance and validation and accolades from, you know, a grant, like from the
masses.
Yeah. Because as I think you should want that, but
you need that group that you trust, that sounding board that like, if these people think it's cool, then I'm stoked.
Then I've made something that they think they connect with, and so if I send you something tomorrow, I was like, hey, what do you think about this idea? And you're like, dude, this is rad.
Yeah,
that in a strange way that would fill me up and fulfill me just as much or more than like, putting out this new album, and I would be like, oh man, I hope people are, like, is it gonna get trashed in the review section of this or whatever, because. And it's not about, I don't know. It's a weird dichotomy of like, am I just scared of, a lot of people, trashing your art, or is it, scared of being vulnerable to have it out to so many people, or because when you get to share things internally with only a few people, it's safer, and But I don't know what that means. I just know how that feels for me when I create stuff, and it helps not put too much investment in how it's going to be perceived by the outside world.
It's a scary place to put your stuff out in the world, man. You open yourself up to a lot, and having your people that are your sounding board that you really trust is crucial, I think, for every artist to go like, hey, is this crap or is this good? It's like, oh, if you think it's good, then I know I'm on the right track. Yeah. And if everybody else hates it, then whatever. Like, I was stoked on it. A couple of my friends were stoked on it. And that's all that you need. Like, being in that place is, I think, super healthy, because, I'm one of those people, even, when I was in a band, and even now, like, you put me on stage in front of 500 people that are screaming and loving every second of it, I see the one person with their arms folded that's like not digging it. That's the one person I'm just like, what? Why isn't that dude on board? Yeah.
Yeah. I think most artists are like that. They're looking for their, not looking, but the things that stand out are sometimes the things that are not beneficial to, the growth, whether it's a negative thing. And honestly, what you're saying about seeing people in the audience that are not digging it, that's kind of where most of the show for me when I'm playing live is I keep my eyes closed, because I don't want to see it. I don't want to see that, and I just want to really be 100% in the moment of like how this music is making my body want to move, and how, if the crowd is really like responsive, I can hear them being really responsive to this, then I want to lean more into that. But if I see one person off in the corner that's going lame, I'm just gonna throw everything off.
Yeah, totally. So you touched on songwriting. I wanted to talk to you about songwriting, because you've been I think you're a natural songwriter, and as you already alluded to, you write every day, and I know that your writing process has varied over the years, and you've been in a place recently where you're a lot more collaborative, and you've been like trying to write with more people. I know that you've written with Gary Clark Jr. on some of his record recently. You've been going to Nashville and writing with different people. Like, what is your songwriting like process looking right now, and like how's that evolved?
Well, so when the band started out, and for a lot of people that maybe are only familiar with Black Pistol Fire, I was in. Actually, Eric and I, the drummer for Black Pistol Fire, were in bands, before Black Pistol Fire in Toronto, and and learning how to write songs in that band, and then when the Black Pistol Fire started, it was my entire musical career was based on writing songs for a band that only has 2 members.
Yeah.
So it's not something I thought about early on. I just was like, okay, got to come up with songs. But now that I look back on it, it's like, okay, writing songs earlier on, you'd write an idea or write a song and then try to rehearse it or perform it, and you quickly start to realize, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't have multiple guitar parts complement each other. It has to just be this, and this, and it has to be something that gets people's attention. It has to be rhythmic. It has to have
it's a little one-dimensional for you.
It is, but it was a great crash course, starting out for writing songs, because you just had to be very direct.
Mm-hmm.
You had to be a strong riff. You had to have, a vocal and a hook that was very, enticing from the get-go. And it had to, the band Black Pistol Fire, when we first started, was all about, volume, energy, power, all these things that you had to try to, like, in some way make up for not having a full band. You had to kind of be firing as much as you can on all cylinders with just the two elements we had. So, and obviously when the albums, getting further into the career and start making more albums for the band, the songwriting starts to evolve, and you can hear that on later albums that, there's more instrumentation, there's intros, there's different,
a lot more layers.
And, just, I don't know, song structure, chord progressions, those are all stuff that start to evolve. But, I think that going into the pandemic, and before going into the pandemic, we were working on our last album, Look Alive, and there was a clear feeling that the music, well, at least for me, writing the music, wanted to explore more and do more, but also feeling this tug and pull that you can't do too much if with just keeping things guitar and drums, and how to perform those things live. So
in a way it kind of handcuffs you a little bit in the writing process, because it's like I can't write something that's too in depth because we can't pull it off live.
Well,
as a two-piece.
And that actually has happened. There's songs on, multiple songs on a lot of our albums where we've tried to rehearse it, try to even perform them live, and it just would not hit. And there's a reason, just because, it requires more. Yeah. And we don't have the ability to do that. So, the idea of wanting to grow as a writer has always been, that's an ongoing thing. Even today, I always constantly learn. And so now, like, being a writer for Black Pistol Fire for, almost 15 years now, I love that gig. I love this gig, and I love it. But it is a lot of time, sometimes pressure to come up with material for the band constantly, and only be able to work in that box.
Yeah.
And so it does get to that point where you're like, oh, what is it like to work with another person? What is it like to sit down and write a song with another person? When I think about, especially a lot of artists and bands that I look up to and admire, you got Beatles and Rolling Stones and Zeppelin, I feel like all those bands, like Mick had Keith, to write with, actually write music with. Paul and John could write together, and Robert Plant and Jimmy Page could, and me and Eric are great at getting into a room and jamming out and bashing around ideas, but I've never had, for most of my career, I've never had somebody to write with, and actually kind of, back and forth, and oh, that's cool. I think I can do something cooler in that part. Or, I've never really had that. So when I first started getting exposed to that, working with other writers, which I haven't done much of, to be honest, I've only done a few times, but lately going into Nashville and doing co-writes and, working with other people, co-writing for other people, or, even producing, is the first time I'm starting to realize, oh, collaboration is amazing.
Yeah.
In that sense, and you can really elevate an idea, a song, anything when you really surrender to collaboration, being open to other people's idea, if it's a great idea, and even being in that place where it's I don't know about this idea, but let's try it. Let's see if it works.
Yeah.
Is something that I'm really starting to get excited about. So I'm kind of craving that a lot more now, is wanting to collaborate and write more with people. And so I mean, I'm excited on this album that we're about to release in the fall. I'm not sure if we got any co-writes on that, but we definitely work with a lot of folks, different folks on some of the tracks on this album. But yeah, I don't know where the future of the band goes, but I do know collaboration is kind of where my head's at, right now, of where things are going to go with the band. And I don't know. I've got all these ideas. Being just a duo or two-piece band opens up the possibilities for a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I think it'd be rad if we started, collaborating with a baritone sax player, and then 2 songs later you bring out a cello player, and it's like, you have this room to be like, there's only guitar and drums and synth. Eric plays synth, bass, but then you can start like switching up what people's expectations are of what they think a band should look like, a rock band. Oh, you need a bass player. Well, this is what we got to work with. And then it's like, well, we can bring out so-and-so, or, pedal steel guitar player, or a banjo player. It was like, there's no rules anymore.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want. And that's what really feels exciting to me about this band, is like, you can really make it into whatever fits your artistic vision. And
there's a lot of room.
Yeah. So to answer your question, collaboration is something I'm really, really enjoying at the moment. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about Black Pistol Fire and this new record that you have coming out. By the time this episode airs, I think it'll be out. What can you tell people about the album?
Well, the album is 12 songs, and like I was mentioning earlier, it's probably some of the most vulnerable I've been with my writing. Excuse me. So I feel very nervous, but also very excited for people to hear it. The writing process of this album was really was very hard at times, and emotionally, and also just, I think, some of this, the beginnings of this album were a lot of songs I was writing, and I didn't know that they were necessarily be for a Black Pistol Fire record. So it's interesting how this album actually evolved into what it is now, because I can see where it was like there was a clear direction where it started, and then it went this way, and then it went that way, and then now it's like a body of work I feel really, really proud and excited for people to hear of. It's in true Black Pistol Fire fashion, it's a mix of all kinds of genres, throwback soul, some heavy fuzz rock. There's a little bit of outlaw country, Waylon Jennings stuff on there. There's a little of everything, which I think, as the band got further into our career, that was something I really wanted to focus on the albums, was making it feel more like a mixtape. You go from one track, and I'm not sure if that's helped or hurt, the band, but I think it's important that I look at things now where I want to create a body of work that goes towards, I think of all the albums as a set list. So if we go in and we're going to play a live show, I eventually want to get to the point where we have so much to choose from that we could really make any set list we want. If we want to do a set list, an entire set list of all chill, like acoustic, low key tracks, we can do that. If we want to do a set that's just heavy stuff, we can do that. If we want to do stuff that's a little bit more groove oriented, we can do that. I think that's the way I'm looking at all the albums now is with how they look live.
It's interesting that you talk about the set list and thinking of it live. Like Black Pistol Fire, is known for its live shows, and it's very explosive and energy driven, and so you mentioned earlier writing for Black Pistol Fire is you're kind of in a box, but that box also, when you're in the studio and you're writing a song, that song has to translate to the stage.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you're known for on the stage is being this explosive rock band. So like, how does that shape your writing process? When you're thinking about, I want to write this song, but is it going to translate live? How am I going to be able to perform it? How am I going to be able to move on stage with this riff or and sing these lyrics? Do those things cross your mind?
Absolutely. It absolutely does. But like I said, in the past, that dictated the writing. Was that you're not going to be able to pull that off live. So let's just push that idea off to the side. Where on the last record and on this record, I'm not letting that dictate where a song can go. And if a song, now I'm just in the mindset, if a song's a good song, that's all that matters to me. And then if it becomes, can you perform it live? We'll worry about that later.
We'll figure that out later.
And if it's something that we, as a band, Black Pistol Fire, the two of us can't play live, but it's a really good song and it resonates with a lot of people, then we'll figure out a way to play it live. And if that means, bringing in somebody to help us out play a rhythm guitar while we get through that track, or, I think that when there's a level of, when you work within a box, that can be a great tool for creativity. Like, we got to make it work for just this. But I think that at some point you have to be like, you have to look at it like, well, if this is hindering my creativity and I have all of these ideas and a vision for something, but I can't do it because of that, then you have to, I'm trying to recognize when that can become a roadblock.
Yeah.
And just like I said earlier, I think you just got to make the best possible art you can make.
And figure the rest out.
And then,
afterwards.
Worry about it later.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's the right approach to take for sure. All right, I want to switch gears a little bit. You and I have spent hours talking about health.
Ooh.
It's one of our favorite topics. And one of the things that I know about you is that you are a runner.
I'm a runner.
You
yes.
love running.
I do.
When did that become your outlet?
I've been running, oh my God, now I can't even remember. I want to say for the better part of like 16, 17 years of just being a dedicated runner. And running was always something that I just enjoyed doing I didn't know it at the time, but it was something that was directly impacting my mental health. Like I would find it would help me have a lot more clarity. And I also, when I was younger, I got diagnosed with ADHD. And so my brain kind of goes all the time, and I can get very anxious at times about lots of things like, I need to do this, I need to do that. And running was something that I learned earlier on, just put me in this kind of Zen place where you would just focus on your breath and the sound of your foot's hitting the pavement or the grass, and you would just kind of drift into this place. Like it was just a kind of a meditation of sorts. And it's just been such a huge, crucial part of my daily routine for so long now that, I did recently start trying to expand last year. I don't know if I told you, but last year me and and Nick, Big Swing and Nick, we did a triathlon last year. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we did it. It was out here in Austin, and that required biking and swimming. So that definitely, was a lot of training and preparation because when all you ever do is run, it's like, you might have some good cardio, but then, get in the water and have to swim however many miles is a whole different ballgame. And then, biking for 26 miles is another whole different ballgame. So those, that's the running has kind of evolved into other areas, which have been really great too, that I'm finding a lot of enjoyment. But I love, running such a big part. And I know that you're a big, you're dedicated to yoga. You go to yoga quite a bit.
Yeah, this year I've been doing yoga like 4 or 5 times a week. I've taken a different approach. I've never really been really big into yoga. I've like dabbled from time to time or taken a class, once every 2 or 3 months. But because I enjoy weight training, I enjoy, as you know, I play hockey. But yeah, it's been a really rough year. And so I wanted to do something that was a little bit softer and a little bit slower and a little bit more intentional. So it's been really good for me. I'm actually getting ready to like switch gears again and get back into weight training, but I'm gonna keep the yoga. I'm just gonna do a little bit less. But yeah, same as with you. Like I don't like the person that I am when I'm not physically active on a regular basis, mentally and emotionally. I just go. It regulates me, and it really does affect my mental health and my sleep and, my racing, unfiltered mind that just never stops. And so, I'm a big advocate for physical activity, finding that thing, because it's super, super important to me. And we've connected on that a lot. But yeah, I'd never asked you before
when you're talking about running, I went on a run this morning, like after I, got up with the fam because they had to get to the airport, but I would try to squeeze in a run before I came down here. And I was thinking about something on my run that I was like, oh, I realize what, what running is for me as well too. Running is also a way to process my thoughts, like collect my thoughts. If I'm got a lot of stuff going on, but it also directly feeds into my art because I can't tell you the amount of times that I've had ideas for songs or a lyric line or this or that have all happened on these like Zen like states, flow states of being on a long. People talk about a runner's high or something, but I do feel like a lot of ideas come to me when I'm running. And then that's that same idea where you've heard people talk about if you're driving a car, when you're doing something that is requiring one part of your brain, then you can allow it to be more, your subconscious to be more open to ideas when, it's being, what I'm saying? It's the same thing for me with running is, so I don't know if you get that from yoga or but there is the,
I do get that from driving my car. I love to drive.
Yeah.
Like when I'm driving, I process so much stuff and I'm able to think really clearly, even if I'm listening to a podcast or, something else, like my brain is able to just like, and I'm never conscious of driving.
Right.
That makes
That's
sense.
it.
Like
Yeah.
when I get to the destination, I don't remember like, oh yeah, I had both hands on the wheel and I, blah, blah, blah. Like I'm almost on autopilot driving,
Yeah.
and I have no idea what I'm doing.
You're right.
I love to think things out. Like I love to go on long road trips and just like watch the scenery go by and think, and collect my thoughts. When you run, do you listen to music?
Yeah, I listen to music. I usually try to pick certain things that don't require me to listen intensely. Because one of the downsides to creating and making music for so long, and that's your job, is sometimes it can change the way you listen to music. You're listening for what kind of compression are they using on that vocal there? And because when you make records too, like you can get very technical, and then and I try my best to protect that part of my brain that really just the reasons why I fell in love with music and why I love to. What music can do, it can transport you to a different place. And so I try to be very mindful about what I'm listening to if I'm going for a run. But there are times that I get overwhelmed and anxious when I'm about to go for a run. I'm like, oh, what should I listen to? I was like, because I know that will directly influence my thoughts, or how, subconsciously my thoughts for the rest of the day if I'm working on music, or if I'm, and so I put a little thought
I
into
always like I miss my iPod because
Me too.
I had made a workout mix,
Yeah.
and I didn't ever need it to be different, or like I need variety. I'm just like, no, these 40 songs get me going. They're great to run to. They're great to lift to. They're great. They just like get me moving. And
Yeah.
I guess I could make a playlist on Spotify just for that. But
I find Spotify is amazing, but it overwhelms me sometimes because
Yeah.
you're getting fed all it's like, oh, new recommendation for this. Here, here's a suggestion for you there, and it just comes on. Yeah, I fully agree with you that I've had that thought many times lately of like, oh, I remember having a run playlist. I remember having a playlist to make dinner to. I had a running a list for like hanging in the backyard with the fam. And
which we can do on Spotify,
can
but
do.
I don't know why it feels more overwhelming to do.
well, when you have an iPod, it's intentional. Like you
Yeah.
only have what you have on that
Exactly,
iPod.
yeah.
You can't go, oh,
Oh, every song that's ever existed. Which
Yeah.
song do I want to use?
I don't think we should have sometimes access to everything that's
Yeah.
every bit of information that we like. I don't know, but that's just me. But to your point about listening to music on a run, I had one more thought I wanted to share, and it kind of ties into the title of the album that's going to be released for us.
Yeah.
So the album title is called Flagrant Act of Bliss, and I've had a few friends ask like, what is that? What does that mean? Like, what's that all about? And it's about many things, but one of the things that I can give a small example about what it means to me is, so if I go on a run and I'm like for music, I'm very particular about music. And I was like, I'm gonna listen to. There's been sometimes where I'll say I got to listen to some new music, or this new album came out and a lot of people are talking about this album. Let me hear what's going on, and I can get anxious about listening to like not knowing. But what happens sometimes is I always revert back to going at 15 minutes into a run if I'm listening to something and I'm like, I don't know, but I always revert back to listening to a band or an artist that I loved, 15, 20 years ago, or like some of the music that I initially fell in love with wanting to be a musician about, and I would always revert to that. And then I would feel like, oh, why are you going back listening to this stuff again? And then I was trying to break it down. Why do I do that? And it's because it feels good. It feels good to me. And it also reminds me and connects me with the reason why I wanted to pursue music in the first place, was because of how this music impacted you. So the idea of like Flagrant Act of Bliss is like, just do what brings you joy.
Do what brings you joy.
And don't worry about like what other people think you should be doing, what you should be listening to, what you should be reading, what you should do, what you want.
Yeah.
Do what makes you feel good, and don't apologize for it. Because I think sometimes for me, I can get in that place of like, yeah, maybe I should be doing more of this. Oh, maybe I should be doing more of this. And it's like, as long as I'm doing the things that fill me up and bring me joy, and I'm actually dedicating time to doing that purposefully and intentionally, then I don't need to stress about anything else.
No, I mean that's the underlining theme of this podcast. Who cares? It's like, I have so many voices in my head telling me that I should be doing something different, or people are gonna think a certain way about me or whatever, and like, at the end of the day, it's like, who cares? Who cares? It's not that serious. Life is not that serious. It's about joy. It's about connection. It's about finding those things that make you want to get out of bed every day, and not for other people, but for yourself.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that sometimes we do, like I hear a lot. I hear you get the noise from, outside, sometimes on socials or whatever, you can say, oh, you need to be eating this, you need to be working out 3 times a day, you need to be this, and like if you want to see results, and it can get overwhelming. And then you start to slip into a place where you're thinking all the time, I got to be doing this, I got to be doing this. And if I'm not doing this, then I'm not evolving. I'm not going. And I think that, I don't know. I just think that you need to listen to that part of you that says, oh, this brings me joy. And, there's nothing wrong with that. I do think that, you should always be striving to grow in some shape or form. But,
yeah, growth is really healthy. But the current inundation with you have to be perfecting yourself on every level at all times is just it's a lot. Unrealistic, and it's overwhelming, and it's a lot. And majority of the people that are pushing those narratives on us are also trying to profit off of us wanting to do that. They're like, sign up for my course, buy this supplement, it's that. I get that all the time, like on Twitter. I'm like scrolling something, I'm like, somebody's like sharing some workout advice, and then at the end they're like, by the way, this is the best supplement, click here to get the best. And I'm just like, man, you can't get anything that isn't guised as a marketing attempt these days, it feels like. So that's true. And I think that it requires a lot more proactive research sometimes when you're like hearing this and hearing that, like, oh, is this really going to help me with this? And that reminds me of, honestly, like a few years ago, probably coming out at the end of 2021, I started hearing rumblings, or I started seeing a lot more things about people talking about. I saw something come up about this guy Wim Hof. Wim Hof? Yeah, the breathing.
The Iceman. Yeah. And they were talking about like, cold plunging and submersion in cold water. And I was like, oh, this sounds like a bunch of BS, all this stuff. But then I started like listening to more research on it and started reading more about it. And so I started giving it a go, and I was like, oh, dang, this is intense, but it's also legit. It's absolutely legit. And then, I became just so deeply regimented in doing this now. Do
you have your own?
I do. I do at the house.
Cold plunge?
Yes. And I can't express the benefits that I've had from doing that, from starting to do them.
I've listened to so many podcasts, and there is a lot of like about cold plunging or just cold exposure, cold and heat exposure, because like both can be beneficial for different reasons. And like, I think they're like now recently within the last like 6 months, there's like more evidence coming out that like cold plunging actually doesn't do anything beneficial to your body and blah, blah, and it's just like, but I don't know what to believe. But what I do know is if you cold plunged or even just taking a cold shower first thing in the morning. Yeah. I mean, you're just lit up with endorphins. You are just so awake and so attuned, and just like, it feels so good, even though it's very uncomfortable to do. It's afterwards, you're just alive.
Yes, yes. And you're correct. The endorphins part is a huge part of it, but it's also, I'm not so concerned about like, oh, if you do cold plunges, it's going to make you, your immune system superhuman and you'll never get sick. Although, when I do them regularly and I'm dedicated to doing them every day for those times, I've rarely gotten sick, but I'm not saying that's because of the cold plunge. I'm just saying. But the other side of it, the main reason why I do is the same reason why I do running. It's a mental thing. Yeah. Like I can't explain sitting in really uncomfortable, physically and also emotionally, it forces you to go to a place of meditation in your brain to sit through, the pain of like, it's excruciatingly cold. And what that does, at least for me, is it helps me practice being okay with uncomfortable situations. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that it trains you.
It builds your mental resolve to like push through uncomfortable moments and
your tolerance.
The tolerance for it, and to train yourself to know that like there's something on the other side of this. Yes. Yes. Like this might be painful right now, but on the other side is going to be something really good, which is something, like I've told you, I've had a really rough year, and that's one of those things that I keep telling myself. It's just like, this is just one of those difficult moments, right? And on the other side of every difficult moment I've ever had, whether it be as small as a cold plunge or losing a loved one or whatever, like, there's a lot of joy on the other side. There's a lot of peace on the other side.
Yeah.
And so learning that lesson over and over again, they're like, the hard moments are always going to come. The really painful, the difficult stuff. And when learning to sit through them, learning to be okay despite the discomfort.
Yeah.
And also having faith that, like, it's not going to last forever. And on the other end is relief, is super important.
Absolutely. That brings me to a question that I wanted to ask you. You're saying that this year has been a pretty rough year for you so far. Do you have, when you're going through hard times and you're trying to find ways to cope with that, what does that look like for you? Do you have support groups, like friends that you can lean on? Do you have certain routines in your day? Do you, like, is there anything that have you learned or found out that help you with rough patches? And rough patches can vary from different degrees of, oh, this is really bad, or this is, man, I just not doing well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a handful. The leaning on my people is one of the biggest ones. You know, when I'm not doing well, I have to talk to other people, and I have to call people. And so my phone game has always been really strong. I learned that with touring and just like living in different places than my friends live. Like, I lived in Denver, I lived in LA, and I lived in Mexico, and like, my friends were always in a different place. So, picking up the phone, calling people, and especially calling the people that I know will answer, and want to talk.
Yeah.
So that's crucial. Just like, there's like 4 or 5 people in my life that, like, if they didn't answer my phone calls on a regular basis, I don't know where I'd be right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
the other is a mixture of some of the stuff that we've talked about, which is like, I have to move. So, like, every day I go for at least an hour walk.
Yeah.
And lately I've been doing it with a weighted vest.
Oh, nice.
Which is really nice. But I have to move. I can't just sit inside in my thoughts, especially when I'm not doing well, or I'm feeling down or a little hopeless or whatever it is. Like, I have to move my body, so whether it's going to yoga and walking or just walking, those things are extremely important to me. And then reaching out to other people to see how they're doing. So I have the people that I reach out to that I can talk about myself. Like, hey man, I'm not feeling good today, or I'm really sad for this reason or that reason. And they'll talk to me, but then I got to call other people that I know need me to listen, and that really helps me get out of myself, when I can call somebody and check on them, and go, hey, how are you doing? It doesn't matter that I'm not doing good. I want to know about you, because I think about me all the time. I want to think about somebody else for a few minutes and see what I can do to make you feel better. That reciprocity of, like, somebody's listening to me and being of service to me. Now it's my turn to be of service with somebody else, like, is a big piece of the puzzle,
Wow. Yeah. No, that's amazing. It's funny because I feel like there's parallels of certain things that you're saying that I might not have been aware of it, that I feel similar with, like, certain friends. I have, like, a friend who has not been doing well for the last couple of years and has struggled a lot with mental health, and to a very, very, concerning degree. And sometimes, when I have so much going on in my life and so much, stuff I'm holding, and then there's times when I feel like, oh, I got to be there for him, and I got to talk to him and be there for him, there's a moment where I'm like, oh man, I don't have space to hold for this right now. I got all this other stuff. But then usually after that, after spending time and trying to help that person, that I feel like, yeah, if it's I don't know if it's a distraction from your own stuff that you're holding, or it's that idea that like, oh, this is, yeah, you're being of service to this person, and that is a good thing to focus your energy on,
Yeah. Well, it does make it harder to think about yourself when you're trying to think about another person, and there is some of that magic in that, like we were talking about with the cold plunge, like helping somebody else works 100% of the time to get me out of my shit. Just like getting in cold water 100% of the time will release endorphins and make me feel better afterwards. Right. It's not a like, yeah, sometimes it works. It's like, it works every single time.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I'm literally, concerned about them and focused on them.
Yeah.
Like I get this selfish thing out of it, this freedom from myself,
Right. No, that's awesome. And that's great that you have those things to lean on when there are rough patches. Because I think a lot of people don't, some people don't have a clear set to go, oh, this is what I do when I'm going through it. In full transparency, to be honest, over since probably 2019, I go to therapy, like off and on, and it was life changing for me. Like I didn't realize how much stuff that I was holding, and whether you're talking to somebody else, a stranger, or you're talking about your own stuff, or you're hearing somebody else's experience, because sometimes if somebody else's, if you're calling me and you're like, I'm going through a rough time, my immediate thought is, oh, that sucks. I'm really sorry that's happening. But then there's this feeling of connection. There's a feeling of connection, because then it's like everybody has hard times, and it's like when somebody else is having a hard time, it's like almost like a subtle reminder that you're not alone. Like other people have hard shit. So
and that connection is everything. That connection is one of the reasons I started this podcast. It's like these conversations, like, and I'm getting this, I'm inspired because I'm listening to podcasts where people are having real conversations about real stuff, and I'm getting something out of it. And it's like, so I want to do that. I want to put that back into the world. I want to have conversations where we're talking about things that maybe somebody who's, a fan of Black Pistol Fire has, just wants to hear you talk about guitars, but now they're hearing this and maybe they needed to hear it and they're like, oh man, like I need to call my friend more, and like, putting that out there in the world to help more connection happen.
Yeah, and honestly, that reminds me of what we were talking about earlier. When we were talking about how being overwhelmed, like if you're an artist or you want to get your music out, and being overwhelmed with like what the demands are of like you need to do this, need to do that. And, I don't think that maybe it's talked about enough of how much impact that has on your mental health as an artist. Of like. What it's like, to have a lot of pressure, to do this, to do that, to measure up against what else is going on in the world, this artist, that artist. And I think that another thing that people might be surprised about is like how many I would say that the definition of being an artist and a creative is that you're going to have a lot of struggles, quote unquote demons, things that you're working through that probably come through in your art. And the art itself is probably a release for that. But it doesn't change the fact that, there's a lot of stuff that comes with, this gig, and it takes a toll. And I think that if you don't have people you can lean on and talk to, it can feel extremely overwhelming. Yeah, it really overwhelmed me. So
Yeah.
I think that what you're saying is so important that people
Yeah, I mean,
know that.
we're living in a time where we're you know, it seems like we're more connected than ever because of social media and because of the internet and all of that stuff. But I think we're more disconnected than we've ever been on a spiritual and personal level. Like people are, I mean, especially the younger generation, like they don't even like to talk on the phone. Like they're like, don't talk to me, don't call me.
I noticed
you know,
that. I noticed that. Yeah.
Don't send me a voice note. Like text me. And it's just like the lack of connection. I think is really hurting us as a society. And like, so I'm really in my personal life just drawn to people that are like, no, call me, you know,
Yeah.
I want to talk on the phone.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, I'm currently single. Like if I were
Did
to
you hear
date,
that, ladies and gentlemen? Did you hear this? Make sure you
Yeah.
got that. Yeah.
If I was to date a girl and she was like, I don't like talking on the phone. Well, guess what? We're not going to go on another date because I don't want to be close to a person that doesn't want to talk, that doesn't want to communicate, that doesn't want to share how they're feeling. And you know, that's the standard that I have for my friends and my family. And like, my phone's always on. Like so many people call me because they know that I'll answer, you know?
Yeah.
And I want for more people to be that way, but I know that I can't change the world. But like, this is one way that I feel like I can inspire connection and these types of conversations without having to call 10,000 people.
No,
you know?
Taylor, I tell you, I'm 100% in agreement. Like I'm the type of guy that wants to talk on the phone all the time because I don't want to. I find texting sometimes can be like just doesn't feel personal, and any chance I get, I'll call somebody, you know.
Yep.
And I probably, lately I've gotten a few times where I'm like, people are like, I don't want to get on a fucking call with this guy again. He's gonna want to talk for another 45 minutes, and it's just like, well, I'd rather talk than send, whatever dozens of text messages of like what back and forth. Just because I'm come from the same place with you. It's like I want to have a connection, whether it's business connection or it's a personal. Like that's a faster way to get there. Is like that that mode. Is just talking. If you can't do it in person, do it on the phone. But I always opt for a call. Opt for a call, and it's probably we're probably just a bunch of old dudes going, why can't it be like this anymore?
I mean, in a way that we are for sure, but it's also like it at its core. That's what human beings do. We communicate with each other. That's like where all beauty has spawned.
Yeah.
Through us communicating in the art of language and the art of emoting and music and poetry and so it's like we're losing pieces of that more and more. We're being talked at instead of talked to, and everybody wants to be listened to, but not as many people want to be listening, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so I think it's a big thing that worries me about where we're heading as a society, but I also know that there's just a huge amount of people that feel the same way that I do, that are working really hard to combat that are trying to, do more things in person and talk to people on a regular basis and have meaningful, deep conversations and not just surface level, like, how was your weekend? Oh, great. My weekend was pretty good too.
Dude, I mean, honestly, that's what I've tried to do over the last couple of years is kind of not eliminate, just like not prioritize surface level relationships. Because I can look at, deep, meaningful relationships that I value are the ones that I can get on the phone with these people. I can go have a coffee and hang out and, talk, call them up if I'm having a rough time. Yeah. Where the surface level relationships, you can quickly weed those out of being like, there's not much substance there, and that's not anybody's fault. But if you can recognize it, you got to.
I mean, they have their place. I mean, I'm somebody that's had thousands and thousands of surface level friendships, and acquaintances, like I know a lot of people just from the nature of the work that I've done over, the last 20 years.
Right.
Not all of them can I hold space to have a deep conversation with, nor would I want to, but,
Right.
Finding your core group and being open to picking up the phone when somebody that you care about calls is like, I think it's a really important thing for us as humans and for our emotional well-being.
Yeah, absolutely. And one last point on this topic that I want to say is that that's a huge reason why I still choose to go into a studio to record.
Yeah.
And when now everyone's like, you don't really need to go on the studio. You just, we've got programs and, ways to record from. I mean, the amount of albums that have been made in somebody's bedroom, that sound amazing and that I love, it's, there's no argument. You can do that and it works. I like going into a studio, and it's not because I'm like I'm holding on to this old school mentality of like, this is how you're supposed to do it. It's because I like connecting with people and collaborating with people in the studio. Like, I want to be able to have a conversation with somebody in the studio and go, what do you think about that guitar solo? Like, and I watch their reaction real time and have a conversation about it. And then also, have a discussion around, life. Like, the studio for me is not just about like we get in there but get out. No, we talk about life, what's going on in each other's life, and then that
which then influences the art.
Yeah, that might impact how we attack whatever the vocal or the song that we're tracking later. And I think that is something we have to really protect, is that level of connection, because now we are understanding that, you can save a bunch of money and record things at home and do that. And I am definitely fall into that category at times when you don't have the financial means to do this, that, and the other. But I want to express the true value, meaning of getting into a room with people and connecting and communicating and collaborating is invaluable.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah, I think it's more important now than ever, and it's we have to fight to preserve that, for sure.
It's dying. It's it ain't like it used to be, Taylor.
No, it's not. It's not like
I'm having all these flashbacks of like when I was a kid and I would hear my parents being like, "Oh, it's all changed now," and now I like feel like am I slowly sliding into the old curmudgeon, that I used to remember seeing when I was a kid. But that's life cycle. That happens with every generation. Yeah. And every generation can always look back and go, oh man, the way we used to do it like this, and it was way better like that. Yeah. But then you might not be open to seeing, what actually now is, it's a lot. We have progressed in a really great way, now in this area and then that area. So who knows? Not who knows. Who cares?
Who cares? We're going to hit some closer questions. So I talk about messy moments a lot on this show. Do you have a messy moment in your life where you kind of, looking back on it, you were like, man, that was bleak, but now you have the better perspective on it?
Yeah. Well, the thing that comes to mind if I think about that, and I hate to be rehashing, that the whole COVID thing, but that was the only time, like real vivid time that I can recall where I thought things were like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't even know if I want to keep making music anymore. I don't know, where I'm supposed to invest my purpose in anymore. So I would say, like, coming out of COVID, it was kind of that time for me, because most of the time during COVID, I was, we were still trying to get a record out. And so I had all these things that I had to keep on working on to keep my head in this bubble and not pay attention to how bleak everything else was looking. But coming out of that, I kind of felt like I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Like, I don't know if I want to keep continuing playing in this band. I don't know if I want to keep continuing making music. I don't know if I want to still live in, the place I live in Austin, Texas. I had all these moments that were so uncertain that it was the only time where I felt like a physical reaction to not knowing what to do, and the level of uncertainty of not knowing what's going to happen with your career, your job, and how that directly impacted all, some relationships. It was just like it all got a little wacky.
Yeah,
Definitely got a little wacky around that time.
You and I spent a lot of time on the phone.
Yeah, so you were probably very much in the mix with when I was having messy moments. Hey, we've had many conversations, and because you were a big part of the band, played a big role in the band's life for a couple years, there's been so many messy, wacky conversations you and I have had about life, about the business, about the band, about everything, and those are all moments that I feel like probably, like, I can't think of a defining moment. This was like a really, really messy moment, other than those times of uncertainty.
Yeah. No, I mean it was. I felt all of those things during COVID. And it was the thing that I always remember was I was so uncomfortable not working, because I'd been working nonstop for most of my life, and all of a sudden I didn't have a job and I didn't have money coming in, and it was just the most uncomfortable thing. And I look back on it going, man, dude, you had like a 6-month vacation where you could just put your feet up and chill, and you stressed the entire time about needing to find a job. And just like looking back and going,
yeah, it's easier to look back go, but in the moment.
But that's what I love about these, looking back at messy moments. It's like, in the moment, it's crazy. Fast forward and you get a new perspective on it, and you can look back. Like, what can you learn from that moment that you can then apply today to your life, to where you're not spinning your wheels needlessly anymore? Or, that's why I'm kind of like fascinated with people's messy moments, because I think they're some of the best teachers that we have.
Yeah, exactly. And that what that brought, what we're both talking about, at least for me with COVID, was how scared I felt about what, like, the unknown, uncertainty was. And I saw how, not only how that affected me and how it affected other people, and how people would react being, when you're really uncertain and nervous about not knowing what's going to happen, and all of a sudden your whole foundation gets rattled, and it can make people react, say, do things that you're like, you normally wouldn't do. And I think looking back at it now, it's like, uncertainty is actually, you can look at that as a superpower, in a way where you can go embrace uncertainty, embrace the unknown, like, you throw yourself into whatever, and what you're doing, trying something different, and you don't know how it's going. But if you do that with, like, I don't know, a good intention, I think you can utilize it to your advantage.
Totally.
Yeah, man.
All right. What is something that you used to care way too much about that you now could care less? Is there anything? Could be super trivial, like baseball cards or whatever, or it could be something heavy.
The thing that's coming to mind, it's kind of ties back into music and art, but it's mostly comparison. Comparison and measuring up against. Significant moment I remember where the band had to play I think it was a benefit. It was something for Gibson Guitar, and they had this big show organized in LA, and they had brought in all these people to play, like ZZ Top, Billy Gibbons. They also had Robbie Krieger from The Doors, and they had all these other like really, really well known and amazing guitar players all come in. And actually, my good friend Emily Wolf, she was on that bill as well. But they flow us in, and we would do this show, and it was each artist could do like 2 songs on stage, and then at the end, all of the musicians would get up on stage and play. I think we played. I can't remember what. No, it was
Lagrange.
Lagrange. That was it. It was Lagrange. It was Lagrange, and the idea was that every guitar player would trade off a solo, and so when it came time for me, I remember I got very self-conscious and insecure that I wasn't as good of a guitar player as all the other people on stage. So I kind of leaned on, effects. I would lean into like some weird whammy thing and, throwing a bunch of fuzz on it. And I just remember feeling like I totally botched it. And I was like, oh man, that was awful. That was awful. And I got on stage and I was talking to a buddy who's a buddy now, but he played in a band with Emily at the time, this guy Evan, and I was telling you, I think he said, "Oh, what's up, man? You weren't happy with the way that went down." I was like, "No, man. Like I don't even know what I was doing." And then I started going off about how I'm not a guitar player, I'm not a shredder, I don't do this, I don't solo, and these guys are all like, pure, the very, very, very technical players. And he said something that stuck with me, that I still think about every day now, is that he said, what you do is different from what they do. And you have to remember that nobody is going to play the guitar like you, and no one's going to play guitar like them. Everyone has got their own thing. Yeah. And people can see that. People don't just see all the million notes that you're playing and how fast you can go through all these licks and runs. They see what it is that you do, your authentic self, or what you're bringing to that. And I, at the time, remember hearing it and going, don't know if I get that fully. And then thinking about it, I started understanding what that meant. It's like I can't look at what, whatever Derek Trucks does, or, a John Mayer or whatever, and be like, oh, I can't play as good as these guys. And it was never about that. It's like you do something very specific, and that's what hopefully people will resonate with. And
yeah, it's your voice, your unique voice.
Yeah, and I think now that some of my favorite guitar players, like, Neil Young is, not thought of as a very technical electric solo guitar player,
Mm-hmm.
But when he plays a solo, he just will play the shit out of one note with so much distortion that you can actually hear the guitar screaming like to stop. It just feels like it's and it's the same thing with B.B. King. B.B. King could play 2 notes and make your heart break into 2 because of how much feeling and soul it has with just 2 notes.
Yeah.
And it kind of just made me realize, like, I gotta stop comparing, like, whether it's vocally, guitaring, my writing, anything, to other people, because what you do is very specific to what you do. So that's the one thing I can think of at the moment. Yeah.
Great answer, dude. All right, last one is hot take. You got a hot take that you got? Can be funny, can be silly, unpopular opinion, something you believe that people do that they just shouldn't.
I've got opinions. I'm trying to collect them and figure out which oh man. See, I thought the hot take maybe was for which should people stop doing. And then I was like, I don't want to tell anybody to stop doing anything.
You don't want anybody to stop doing anything.
Well, no, I think that I would want people to figure out, on their own accord, what is like, is this benefiting me, or is this benefiting anybody else? And there's so much. I mean, there's just so many things to run through that I feel like I go back to what I was saying earlier about the album title.
Yeah.
Do what you do what brings you joy, and as long as you're not
Don't hurt anybody else.
You're not hurting anybody, and you're not, impacting anybody in a really negative way intentionally, then, do that. But the hot take, I don't know what to shake a finger at. When you said pineapple on pizza, that is something that my wife does.
Yeah?
And it doesn't bother me, but it does. It does. It's not something I enjoy, and I don't think that should go together. But as far as that,
all right, there you go.
I
Kevin doesn't enjoy pineapple on pizza.
I don't.
But he doesn't want you to not do it. He wants you to do whatever the hell makes you happy.
Oh, that's all. That's all I want. Do what brings you joy, and don't pay attention to what you think you should be doing.
Hell yeah. Dude, Kev, I'm so glad that you came and did this. It means a lot to me. I think we had a really good conversation.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Thanks for having me. This was a blast, and anytime.
The band is Black Pistol Fire. You can find them at blackpistolfire.com, Black Pistol Fire on socials, and you got a new album coming out. What's the date? When you're listening to this, it won't be October yet, probably. So,
and Taylor may or may not be back on the road touring again by this time. Who knows?
I could be doing a million different things. Who knows? Yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for listening to Who Cares? Whoever's still listening to this, I'm really glad you're here. If any of this resonated with you, or you know somebody that might need to hear it, send it their way. Don't forget to like and follow, subscribe wherever you're listening. Leave a review, and you can find us on all socials at Who the Pod Cares, or head to whothepodcares.com. Check out more, drop us a note, and you can even send in a listener question that we'll at some point answer on the air. We're building this thing together. I'm so glad that you're a part of it. I'm so grateful to Kevin for being here. See ya.
Peace.